Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Your host, the Raven here, bringing you some Path of Exile action. This time, we're doing some Tier 12 map and Corrupted Rare. As I gain experience and I learn the game more and learn more of the mechanics and improve myself and get better, you take on higher challenges. There's 3 tiers of maps. Tiers 1 through 6 are the lowest tier. The beginning of the in-game maps, but they're the lowest tier. 7 through 10 are yellow maps. They are the medium tier, whereas the previous ones are white. And then the final tier are red maps. Those are maps 11 through 16. And right now we have a map tier 12. I'm working on my atlas, so I need to do this corrupted rare. Corrupted just increases the damage, increases the amount of modifiers. There's an achievement for the map modifiers if you get more than 8 by corrupting a map. So it's worth your while either way. Also, working on your atlas is just, really good. So anyway, look at these map modifiers. Area has increased monster variety, shocking ground, magic monsters, rare monsters. The monsters have more life. 368% critical strike chance increase, 45 to critical strike multiplier. Monsters reflect 18% of physical damage. Rare monsters have a nemesis mod. Magic monsters have a bloodline mod. Monsters take reduced damage from critical strikes. I mean, just very, very powerful. But once again, you have to know your build. While a lot of these modifiers look scary, for my build, not so much. Let's get started. They seem everybody's build is different, so you have to know what works for you and what doesn't. I just don't recommend rushing headlong into a map for whatever reason, not knowing if the modifiers are heavily against you. I mean, unless you're specifically trying to challenge yourself. If you're not trying to challenge yourself, don't take on those map modifiers. But anyway, I'm going to take this map very slow because that critical strike chance thing is no joke. It's better than flat increased damage, because that's really way more dangerous in my personal opinion of the flat damage. If it was, monsters deal 60% increased damage, flat, be very powerful. So anyway, you see I got promenade map and museum map drops. The more maps you complete on your atlas, doing the requirements, whether beat it on magic, beat it on rare, beat it on corrupted rare, the higher chance you get for map drop increase. Like right now I'm as the start of this video, I was at 71. I have 71 maps complete on my atlas out of the total of 125. So I have a 71% map drop rate. It doesn't guarantee you a map, but the higher it goes, the more you see. And as you can see, I'm getting some pretty early. Now the thing, this place is kind of against me. There's another reason why I picked to do this map, because if you can see, I shoot projectiles. That's my main attack skill, and they don't pass through objects or whatever. And that can be very difficult, because there's like pillars, there's sarcophagi, there's columns, and there's rubble on the ground, that type of stuff. Those stair steps, all those things can block my shots and the shots of my totem. Both myself and my totem, we use Arctic Breath as our attack skill. It shoots out a frozen skull. I have some support gems on that. On my main skill, the main thing I want to highlight is I switched from lesser multiple projectile support to fork support. Fork support just works out way better because I shoot one projectile, which gives me a tighter line of fire, a tighter aiming corridor, especially if I have to shoot through doorways like in this type of map. But when it hits an enemy, then it splits into 2 more projectiles. So very good I can shoot it into a doorway, hit somebody in a room, and then it splits and hits them and kills them. So like very effective for clearing out rooms, much better than just shooting out 3 right off the bat, and then you have the middle one go through the doorway, and then the other 2 hit the sides and blow up or whatever and not do any damage or just be ineffective. So that's one of the main things I changed. Once again, I'm using chaos inoculation for my build. I like it. I mean, I'm a magic using guy, and energy shield is like a big part of that. You don't have to use chaos inoculation to use magic. It's just my personal preference. And you can be a life build and use magic. I mean, it's up to you, your style of play, what you're comfortable with. Now, the monsters in here are kind of annoying. The increased monster variety, I think, kind of put me at a disadvantage again because uh, the one things that are in here that probably usually aren't in here, it just depends. You can see more maps, is the guys that they throw the bombs. I don't know their proper names. I just know that there's 2 or 3 versions. Some throw fire, some throw chaos bombs, and I think there's a version that throws out lightning. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm pretty, there. I don't see why they wouldn't have a version for each element or each type of damage, with the exception of physical. What they do, the bombs explode, so I guess there's maybe a little bit. No, that might be fire damage. I think all exploding enemies, whether it's detonate dead or some other reason why the zombie blows up, something explodes, it's usually dealt as fire damage, I believe. But don't quote me on that. But once again, I'm still learning the game. I've been playing for 3 years, but the beauty and the reason why I like Path of Exile so much is there's so much to learn, so much to do, so many mechanics, so many details. And the gameplay, and I just really enjoy that. It just gives you something to look forward to every single day you play. The Atlas content is amazing. Different worlds, different realms, different situations. It gives you a reason to play beyond, oh my gosh, I better grind to keep up to the next expansion pack or whatever. In Path of Exile, whatever level you've gained that level. The cap is 100, although the soft cap is 90. Once you hit 90, it's really hard to gain experience. You just gain at a super slow rate because the monsters stay at a certain level, and you're penalized for fighting you get an experience penalty for fighting any monsters that are 11 levels either below you or above you. So if you're level 30 and you're fighting monsters that are level 42, you might can kill them, but you're wasting your time because you're getting an experience penalty. And vice versa, if you're level 30 and you're fighting monsters that are level 18 or 19, you'll get an experience penalty. Once again, they're lower level, you'll be able to rip through them, but you're not going to gain any experience, so what's the point? And that kind of makes sense, because then the game will be too easy. People will just go back to normal difficulty or whatever, find the cheapest, weakest monsters they can possibly find, and they gain all the levels they need. So, that makes sense. But once you hit 90, I think the highest monster level is 80 or 79 or 80, and that's just below 90. So you get that penalty. And then my character, he's level 92, so of course I'm going to get a penalty. I think no matter what map I pick, I might receive a penalty. I haven't done tier 14, tier 15, and tier 16 maps yet, so maybe I won't get such a hard penalty, but at the moment, yeah, definitely a penalty. So anyway, I'm taking this slow because of the map modifiers. You cannot underestimate it. The situation, I mean, you might can kill the monsters pretty quickly, but if they split, or when they blow up and turn into smaller versions of themselves, or just so many things can go wrong. You have to be careful. If you want to survive, you just have to take your time and be as careful as possible. Me, I choose, the slow and steady route. I mean, there's maps where I could just rip right through, maybe done in less than a minute, less than 2 minutes, just start at the beginning and, be at the end, annihilate the boss and keep going. But every now and then, like today, I like to challenge myself with the map modifiers. I like to say, hey, let's spice it up a bit. Let's make it so I have to retreat. Let's make it so I have to back up. Let's make it so I have to think twice before I, do something. That's what makes the game fun. There's nothing wrong with the set dungeons or things like that, skirmishes or raids or whatever that type of stuff in other games. It's good to have a set content that you can, rely on, consistently for gameplay or whatever. That's pretty good. But, after a while, it can be boring. With Path of Exile, I can take the same map. I can do it plain, no map modifiers whatsoever, Or I can make it magic, add a little bit of spice to the mix, or I can make it rare, or as I'm doing now, corrupted rare. So and if you even want even bigger challenge, now this is for professionals only. Professionals only. This tip here: if you want a bigger challenge, you want the best challenge possible. Take a map, make it rare. Obviously, anytime I do quality maps, I put chisels on it. That just helps your loot. But anyway, take a map, make sure it's unidentified, a rare map, and then corrupt it, and don't identify it. Put it in the map device and activate it, and go inside the map and fight without knowing the map modifiers. If you leave it unidentified, when you come inside the map, if you press tab, it will not tell you what you're up against. It's a complete mystery. You're in the dark. You can only find out through experience of gameplay. So anyway, real quick, I just wanted to go over this real quick because I'm using Chaos Inoculation build. Now I'm trying to drop as much knowledge as possible whenever I get the chance. So anyway, this ring, Dream Fragment Sapphire Ring, I cannot be chilled. I cannot be frozen, which is imperative for Chaos Inoculation because being stunned and being frozen are based off your life. I'm not sure about chill. That might have something to do with your life. I see people get chilled all the time. Whether life builds or not. And once again, this Eye of Chayula cannot be stunned. So anyway, you need those two. Or you can beat the game without them, but I highly recommend getting them. They're pretty cheap. You can usually find some for a couple of chaos orbs or whatnot. Sometimes you can just, in fact, the Eye of Chayula, I just found that it was a drop. I didn't have to buy it off of anybody. So you want to keep your eyes peeled for Eye of Chayula and Dream Fragment Sapphire Ring. So anyway, now here we are. We're going to open up this Artisan Strongbox. Now, Artisan Strongbox are my favorite, and usually I would leave them unidentified. If you leave it unidentified, you get better loot. But because I'm mapping and because I'm trying to be careful with my experience, I don't want to die. I will identify it just to be on the safe side. Better safe than sorry. And also, when it comes to opening strong boxes and chests, a lot of times one of the traps or modifiers or whatever built onto the box freezes you when you activate it, and that is extremely dangerous because if you get frozen and you're stuck solid frozen and it's surrounded by powerful enemies, especially if they're like golems or something, they do heavy physical damage, and you're surrounded by 5 of them and they all slam you, you're gonna die very quickly. So this time I identified the chest. And I got a little bit of something. Artisan strong box, not the best. My favorite usually are the gem cutter strong boxes because you can trust to either get a gem cutter's prism or the card that, if you stack up enough, you can turn the cards in for a gem cutter's prism. And there's some boxes that just give you really good stuff like the gem, and then if you get quality gems or divination cards. There's one, it's like a crystal ball. I can't think of the proper name for it at the moment, but it's like a crystal ball. If you open it, it just drops cards, and and that's very helpful for completing important sets, for pieces of items or whatnot. So pretty good there. These stairs, block my shots. It's just so many. This map is just so against me. So I'm glad I'm doing it now because when I get it done, then whenever I come back, I don't have to worry about modifiers or completing it. It'll be done. I can just kind of trash it, or if I so choose, turn it in for a cartographer's chisel. The recipe for cartographer's chisels is 1 map and 1 stone hammer, or the mace, the stone mace type weapon. But that weapon has to be at quality 20%. So it's better to leave them blank, and that way it only takes you 4 blacksmith's whetstones to get it to max quality. You go to an NPC vendor, turn that in with a map that you don't want or don't like, and boom, you get a cartographer's chisel so you can enhance a map that you do like. And all the maps, because of my attack skill, all the maps like the torture chamber, Vol Pyramid, any map where it's like a lot of tight corridors, narrow rooms, or there's pillars or crap on the ground that blocks your shots, it's just annoying to navigate. And then especially if you have something on top of that, like players are cursed with temporal chains map modifier. You're moving slow, you're shooting slow, or you're attacking slow. then you got all this crap in your way, and you're blocked by doorways and columns. It's like, ugh, it can be so annoying. So anyway, look at these magic monsters. I mean, every group you have to be careful. Especially for me, I still have to be careful of corrupting blood. Being chaos inoculation, that cuts out a lot of stuff like monsters poison on hit. Monsters do extra damage as chaos, or whatever modifier that has to do with chaos. I'm immune to that, but I'm not immune to corrupting blood. I can withstand a few stacks. I think my limit maybe 7 to 10 stacks of corrupting blood. That's when I start to lose health and energy shield. But even if you're not actively losing health and energy shield, corrupting blood does do damage over time. So it can that in conjunction with other monster attacks or abilities can deplete your health or energy shield or whatever you are using pretty quickly, and lead to death very fast. So always make sure you're prepared for whatever you face when you do these maps. And corrupting blood, I think 3 out of 4 of my potions have immunity to, it cures corrupting blood on use, and then it grants me immunity for the length of the flash duration from corrupting blood. So very useful for dealing with enemies like that. Also, my totem is good for that too, because both corrupting blood and elemental reflect. I use the totem because if the totem gets the totem will kill itself, but so what? You just make it again. It's a totem. That's the whole point. It's a drone. It's a one use entity or skill that you use it for certain situations, and if it gets destroyed or whatever, or frozen, or whatever happens to it, like, it doesn't matter because it's just a construct. And it's better the totem than your own behind. That's my philosophy. So that's how you deal with that. For every modifier or whatever, there is a way to counter it. And that's another thing I like about p.o.e. There's always a way around something. There's no like one attack skill or one style of play or monster ability that just kicks everything's butt. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. It's the best. Like, each person, you just decide what you want. I played some interesting builds. I poked my head into PvP again yesterday, and it wasn't such a great experience that time. I admit I got my butt kicked once, and then the second match ended in a draw. But you learn every time. You see different skills and styles from other players, and then you get inspiration, and you can see how different things that you thought would be stupid or ineffective are really effective. Are very good if you know what you're doing and you build your character right for that. Let's see. I will go over some of my abilities really quickly. A friend of mine, she was like, I watch your videos, but I see you doing this or doing that, but I don't really understand a lot of things that are going on. So anyway, there's those shields you see circling around me, those bright flaming shields. Those increase my physical damage protection, and also they lay a trap. As they take damage, they get ready, they explode at a certain point, and any enemy near me when they explode takes heavy fire damage. While the shields are up, my physical defense is increased. The bubble around me is it's a cosmetic effect for the discipline aura. Once again, being chaos inoculation, discipline, and discipline is a must because you need as much energy shield as possible, because that's your sole defense. You only have 1 hit point for life, as you can see if you look in the bottom left corner. I have my life and shield stats available. My attack skill, Arctic Breath, once again, shoots a frozen skull projectile. It hits, and when it hits, it explodes on impact. So that's another thing that helps me clear narrow rooms and tight rooms and stuff. Is I shoot the projectile, it hits a guy, and explodes, and then those projectiles fork and they explode too for AOE damage. So that way I don't have to aim at every single guy. I can just kind of hit 1 or 2 guys. It's almost like playing pool, because the way the pattern in which the projectiles fork, it reminds me of billiards. The angles or whatever. So like, you could kill a guy standing behind a wall or some other obstruction without even aiming at him, just because his friend is next to him. And I find that very effective. And I encourage anyone, whenever you play Path of Exile, do what's best for you. Whatever makes you feel good, makes you feel comfortable, like makes you have fun. And once again, another map, it pays to have that, to get your atlas ready so you can get those map drops. Whatever makes you feel comfortable and it makes your gameplay easier and more fun, do that. And just fork support just happens to work out much better than lesser or multiple projectile support for my main skill. Totem use the same skill, Arctic Breath. I use Lightning Warp for my teleportation skill. Whenever you see a beam of light come out of me and another beam of light somewhere else, I am using Lightning Warp for teleportation. Now, if you look at my feet, you will see a red spiral, a red kind of marking going around in a circle. That is a vitality aura. It increases my life regeneration, which I have the passive Zealot's Oath. So that life regeneration is transferred to my energy shield. We know once again I'm Chaos Inoculation. And also, if you look at my feet, you will see a kind of a hexagon, a blue hexagon ring. That's the elemental weakness curse aura. I have it slotted as a curse. It just helps me because I do my attack skills do elemental damage, so that curse makes enemies weak to the elements. So it helps me, take down enemies, much faster. The yellow ring around my feet that rotates, that is an ascendancy passive skill. It gives me extra energy shield and I forgot what else, but it's on the path of the Guardian for the Templar. So, those are my abilities and my skills. I also use Enduring Cry, War Cry, to gain those extra endurance charges when I need them. So anyway, here's the boss. He is, I forgot his name, but he's a Bone Stalker. He's based off the Bone Stalker enemy type, which those things are powerful. Even in the regular game, when you first hit Act 2, when I was playing a couple years ago as my first time playing, them things will kill you. If you met, like, they're kind of one of those sleeper enemies again. Like, they move slow, they're really, they're just a skeleton or whatever. So you see it, and you're like, okay, this is just, the skeletons are weak anyway. So you see this one and you think, okay, this is still a skeleton, it's just a big skeleton, what's the deal? But if they catch you, if you get caught slipping, you get hit with that bone mace or that bone hammer, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. So anyway, being ranged, I avoid them as much as possible, and I definitely avoid being trapped inside that bone column trap, because whoever is trapped in there, he also causes the bone spires. You can see that pile of spikes sticking out of the ground. That does heavy physical damage, and it will eat you alive if you're not careful. I mean, and you have to have a really extreme build to be able to tank that. I'm not, I believe it's possible because there's so much possible in Path of Exile. Period. That I never will say you can't do this, you can't do that, because I don't know, and I wouldn't discourage anybody from playing such an awesome game, or think that, hey, well, what if I have this idea, be discouraged and be like, oh, well, the Raven said this skill won't work, or this won't work, or whatever. Just I'll never discourage another player. Do whatever's possible, but you will be hard pressed, though. It will be a difficult challenge to make a build that can tank those bone spires or whatever, because I think the damage stacks too. So you're not only are you taking straight damage, but the damage is scaling as you take stacks, kind of like Corrupting Blood, and it's just a situation you don't want to be in. So anyway, lightning teleport, as you can see, that blue column of light, that's my lightning teleport beam. Once around me, I'm popping a quick flash or whatever for movement speed. The electricity, the pools of electricity on the ground, I didn't explain, they're shocking ground. And if you're standing on those and you get hit by an attack, you take increased damage from all the sources of attack. So not a very wise idea to be standing in one of those electric pools while taking damage from the boss. So anyway, I'm your host of Raven. This dude's about to drop couple more attacks. Boom, there he goes. One more notch on my atlas completed. I'm your host of Raven. Like, comment, subscribe, hit me up with your questions. Have a great day and have fun on Path of Exile. Love you and thank you very much.